In this video, I am joined by the Italiano and Mr. Seymour Duck. We are talking about the DC element in this whole equation. Warner Brothers Discovery is not really doing so hot right now. So a lot of stuff, there's a lot of question marks in and around Warner Brothers and a lot of the IP that they hold. We're going to break down, we're going to kind of speculate and kind of have fun today. Up next on this episode of OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. In this episode of OG, we're talking about DC. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely, and that was very clever. I like how you did that.
OG.
That was nice.
DC.
But anyways, you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. And we got Mr. Seymour Duck in the house. Mr. Duck, it is always good to have you on. How you doing, sir?
Hello. I'm doing amazing. Glad to be back.
Absolutely. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is. Make sure you follow him. Now, Seymour, we have got to soon, whenever you're available, we got to do that X video, your prediction for 2025. I think it'd be a fascinating video of financials and what have you. You know, I think that'd be a lot of fun. You know,
yeah. For a tease, 2025, I don't think X is going to survive.
That's bold. That's bold. We talked a little bit about it last night on the live show with Jay Shear and Tones and stuff, and I'm like, hey, the world might be a better place without Twitter because Twitter is a cesspool right now. So anyway, but yes, we definitely got to make that video. But today's topic is DC. George, this was your topic idea, man. So you know what? I'm going to let you set the stage.
Absolutely. Well, how this kind of correlated into a discussion that I brought to OG's attention was I had recently been on a Disney cruise, and in the nightclubs and everything, they have like an entertainment kind of host that kind of runs like the adult entertainment and everything, the game shows and what have you. So we were doing a trivia, and she had made a joke. Her name was Emily, and shout out to Emily. She was a great Disney cast member on the Disney Fantasy, but she made a joke, and like she was going through like the rules of the trivia and everything, and she said, but you just can, and this was, mind you, this was during the Marvel trivia, and she said you just can't say Batman, because she said not only is Batman not Marvel, but we do not own him. And then she paused and she said yet. Now, of course, she said it with some sarcasm and more so that she was joking, but it did bring up the thought in my mind that, you know, Disney is very well known of purchasing other intellectual properties from other companies. Right. And utilizing them. You know, they did it with Pixar. They did it with Star Wars. They did it with Marvel. And so I do know that there's like a lot of like red and yellow tape and logistics like of Six Flags using DC and everything, but anything could change at the drop of a hat, you know, and could there potentially be where, you know, Disney could establish the rights for the DC comics, you know, and I know we were talking about it that Warner really isn't doing so hot. And even with the films, you know, they were kind of all over the place. They were kind of jumping the gun. No pun intended to James Gunn, who's actually
don't jump the James Gunn, you know.
Yeah, don't jump the James Gunn. But we still have to even see how his version is going to come out, and is there going to be some sustainable leg life there? So just in all retrospect, when it comes for DC as like the film base, right, as in the parks, could they get a revival, so to speak, if down the road Disney does acquire them.
This is the thing, right? I'm a Disney guy through and through, and I don't hide it. I'll tell you, I'm biased. I prefer Disney. I do. I'll say this though, I don't want Disney to have DC. I would rather Universal have it, in my opinion, because I feel like Disney. I think they own enough right now. Like their library is good and they're set. They got Marvel. I would give DC to Universal and kind of have that competitive nature and let DC sort of play in that Universal sandbox and stuff. And then plus it helps Disney anyway, though. It still helps Disney because now Universal will and we'll talk about it, but Universal will let go of the Marvel rights for east of the Mississippi.
And that's where my question will come in for Seymour as well on his thoughts on that. Okay. Because which Seymour, like, do you think Disney could even strategize to purchase? Now, again, this is all hypothetical because honestly, it doesn't even seem like Disney is even interested in DC. But in time, could they even use that as a strategy that if they were to purchase DC or even really anything off of Warner and kind of something that would be Universal-esque, where they can say, hey, we have this, you have Marvel. Can we possibly come to like some terms and agreement that, you know, give a little, take a little, so to speak? So could even Disney utilize a purchase, something ambitious as a purchase of DC, just to actually kind of give it away, so to speak, just so that they can have some leverage to get the full rights of Marvel off of Universal?
Interesting. So you're saying like they could, yeah, I could see that as a benefit, but the issue is if that was going to happen, lawsuits are going to happen and antitrust and everything, because you're trying to destroy the competition for gain and then trying to sell it back after. I think it's very iffy there because antitrust will be there because first, I don't think Disney needs to buy DC at all. For my reasons, it's because, you know, quality versus quantity. You already have enough superheroes, and if you buy DC, you're just gonna you know, have too much quantity. You know, it's going back to Chapek's era of just putting too much. We already had too much of Marvel. Imagine having DC. But with that being said, that would be a sneaky tactic, but I think the courts and everyone will sue the antitrust. I mean, you know, it'd be like a big FU to Brian Roberts. Hey, we got DC now. Do you want it back now? You remember Hulu? You're trying to make it a Fox, going up the price. Disney could do that. But to sell it right after, antitrust would come because they're going to put rules in place saying if you want to buy DC, you're going to have to keep the DC properties for a certain amount of years. You're going to have to produce movies. You're going to have to produce this. Why did you buy it if you already have Marvel? And I don't think it's going to go through if all those rules in place. Disney's not going to risk it.
Do you have a strategy like within yourself of how Disney could maintain the full rights to Marvel? Like if Disney came to you,
I've heard a lot of wacky things online saying like give up Avatar so we can get back Marvel IP. So like hell no, Avatar is like a moneymaker for Disney. Why would you want to give up Avatar for it? Just because you don't like it? I mean, it's like top 2 films. Like it's in the top 3 of the top 2 films in the world.
And I still don't understand that for the amount of hate that Avatar gets. When you look at the numbers of how much it makes, I don't understand it.
Yeah, and apparently James Cameron was talking about it online that he's getting all this hate, and it's like, well, you look at my numbers. The proof is in the pudding.
Come on, 2 movies made $4 billion. It's out of control. Yeah, exactly, Seymour. Why would you get rid of Avatar, of all things? That's your biggest moneymaker right now. Literally your biggest moneymaker. And that's typical fan kind of stuff. Like that's the one issue I have with like not just the Disney Parks fandom, but a lot of fandoms where it's like, if I don't like it, it doesn't belong here. And it's like, come on, have a little bit of like, hey, you know what? It's not for me, but I understand the appeal, or I understand there's a market for it. It might not be my thing, Like, I don't give a shit about sports. Couldn't care less about sports. I couldn't, if you offered me $1 million right now, George, I could not tell you who played the Super Bowl last year. I have no idea. I have no freaking idea. But I'm not going to sit there and go, they should sell ESPN or they should get rid of it because I don't like sport. Like, come on. There's a market for it. It's very popular. You know what? It's good to have in your wheelhouse. You know what I'm saying?
I will say though that the ESPN zone down at Disney Springs was a piece of shit though.
Was it though? I've never been to the one in Disney Springs, but out here in California, I've been to the one in California.
Now, when I say a piece of shit, now I just feel like even if you are a big sports fan, I just think that was just a total waste of space.
ESPN zone, or are you talking
I'm
about?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, not the ESPN zone. I'm sorry, the NBA
experience.
That
experience, yeah. Not to be confused with the OT55 experience.
Exactly.
There you go. Understood. No, but it wasn't good.
There's a big difference between OG55 and NBA with the experience.
Yes, absolutely. But you went to that. You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. I felt like it was a complete waste of space that they took out for Disney Quest. Now I do know Disney Quest was completely outdated, right? But I felt like that it was definitely a marketing campaign for Iger. The fact that he flew all the way down there just for the grand opening for that thing. And even if you were a sports fan or a basketball fan, it didn't settle well with people.
Yeah. Well, he's friends with the NBA commissioner. I don't know the guy's name. The tall guy, the bald guy, he's tall and bald. I don't know his name, but he's friends with him and stuff. And there were even rumors. I remember there were like 2 or 3 years ago, there were rumors that Bob Iger was actually considering him to replace him at Disney. I mean,
interesting.
I remember that was a rumor like maybe about 2 years ago, in and around the time that Iger came back. And I was like, oh gosh, I hope not, but let's dive into this.
I do have one thing.
Sure.
So I do have one tactic that Disney could do. Could do a 180 that Brian Roberts did with Fox. If Universal, Comcast wanted to buy the rights for DC, Disney would bid up the price, even though they have no intention of to the point where Comcast would have to sell the rights for Marvel stuff back to Disney at a lower price because they can't afford the DC stuff.
See, now that's smart. That's very smart.
See, Seymour, you know what's up, bro? Exactly. That would be a tactic. Absolutely.
Even though I want them to put more Pokemon and Mario, I wouldn't mind a little bit of DC at Universal.
Yeah. No, DC at Universal, I think would be a good fit, and I think it would be really good for that competition factor. You got these two big companies that are already rivals, and then they're gonna pit the two biggest comic book brands against each other. I think it could lead to a lot of cool stuff, I think. But speaking of which, now this is all rumor, so I just want to emphasize that this is all rumor with a capital R. Universal Parks News Today is reporting that Universal is actively developing replacement for Marvel Superhero Island. Again, this is a big rumor, so I want to make sure everyone knows that. Rumors indicate that Universal Creative is currently developing plans that will replace Marvel Superhero Island at Islands of Adventure. It goes on to say here that Marvel Superhero Island opened with the park in 1999. At the time, Marvel was nowhere near as hot of a commodity as it is now. Universal struck a deal for the theme park rights that include any character in the families of characters represented in the land, meaning the Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four. The contract, which is available to read in full, and I'll be linking all this down below if you guys want to dip into this, gives Universal the exclusive theme park rights to those characters and Marvel branding east of the Mississippi. That's why we here in California can have Marvel, pretty much anything we want with Marvel. They can't, though, out there in Walt Disney World.
Is that why we don't disrespect the West Coast?
That's why, yeah, they don't disrespect the West Coast.
Yeah. Oh, so y'all ain't gonna let nobody disrespect the West Coast, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Kendrick, you said it, buddy. You said it. It says here, and it lasts, quote, in perpetuity, end quote, as long as Universal is utilizing the property according to the quality terms set in the contract. Here's the thing, though, and I know a lot of people push back at me when I say this. It says it right there. All Universal can do is basically beautify plus enhance what they currently have. Universal is getting really aggressive in the theme park space, right? They're getting really aggressive. They're building new parks around the world. Even another new park here in the US, in Texas. They're building Epic Universe. They're doing big things. I think eventually they're going to want to take that land, that superhero land, and do something with it. It's a dead land. It will always be a dead land. All you can do is repaint it and refurb it. You can't. Disney's never going to allow them to add anything to it. So Universal, I think, is better served getting rid of it, giving it back to Disney, and putting something in there like Seymour says, put Pokemon in there or something like that. Something, you have a great working relationship with Nintendo. Universal has really fostered a lot of good working relationships with a lot of these different studios and companies. They also have some great IP of their own that they can kind of tap into. Why limit yourself to this brand that you're never going to be able to do anything with? I know people love Spider-Man. I heard it's the best attraction. Oh, it's one of the best attractions in the world. But I mean, that ride system you can utilize with any IP. You can make it doesn't have to be Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Seymour? About this? About possibly getting rid of the working a deal out.
I mean, it makes sense because why are you having the competitors' IP in your own parks? Right? It's like you're giving them free advertising.
Yeah. Well, and that merch they sell, a percentage of it, I'm sure, goes to Disney as well. I mean, it's saying?
It's like another fifth flywheel for Disney. Oh yeah, we have IPs being licensed at Universal, but yeah, it's it was gonna come after Disney bought Marvel. We knew this was coming. I'm hoping those rumors, even from Theme Park Wizard, friend of the channel, he said that there's rumors of Pokemon, Zelda, Luigi's Mansion coming to Universal, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's one of those attractions being worked on at that park. And I would be happy because I'm a huge Nintendo fan, right? And it could be a different take that Universal does, where Disney has a lot of these superheroes, and Universal can be like, well, we don't need superheroes. We got the iconic Mario. We have Zelda. We have Luigi's Mansion. And Pokemon. If you bring all those in, that could compete with the Marvel superheroes from Disney, because unlike having DC there, where it's almost okay, where do I go, DC or Marvel? You get a completely different take. You get a completely different attraction. It's a whole completely different IPs, right? It's basically it's Mario, Nintendo, right? It's not superheroes, and like me for myself, right? I would rather go see the more Nintendo than Disney. I'm a bigger Nintendo fan.
Yeah.
Even though people would say I'm a Bob Iger yes man, I do like Nintendo more.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. You bring up a great point. And if you do, let's take for example, hypothetical, right? You said Theme Park Wizard. He brought up Zelda. Let's just say hypothetical. You were to replace Marvel Superhero Island with Zelda, right? And I don't know where they would put it. I'm not super tapped into Universal, but let's just say hypothetical. Zelda isn't a superhero, but it sort of taps into that same demo though, right? It kind of taps into the same demo as a Spider-Man, I think, but you're utilizing your Nintendo IP. You have a great relationship right now with Nintendo. Universal does. You have the sky's the limit. You can actually expand. You can actually add attractions in that land. You're not limited and shackled like you are with the Marvel stuff. And that Marvel, George, you were just there with Slimer. Mm-hmm. You were saying that Superhero Island looks really outdated.
It looks janky. It is completely. I know that at the time when they built it, they were going for the comic book style, which still gives off that feel, but it kind of gives me, and I say it gives me the Six Flag vibes. Yeah. It is completely outdated. You could tell that this was opened in 1999, which is a shame because there's only so much that you can give a paint job or a clean. It's you can't do no necessary change to update it because of what Disney holds, so, and it even goes to the notion where I think in time Universal is going to want to do that with everything that's kind of tied to Disney, because obviously they're looking into getting rid of the Simpsons lands at both Universal Orlando and Hollywood.
Right.
But also at the same time, because Disney gets a royalty of anything that is sold of Simpsons merchandise, so it's like, I think, it's best if Universal, and I do agree with you with OG. I feel like that, DC is a better fit for Universal. It just has that feel for it. And then honestly, both would win. They would have DC and then give the full rights, the park rights of Marvel over to Disney.
Right.
And
It's a win-win.
Let's call it a night.
No, it's a win-win, and I agree. I agree with you, George, and I agree with you, Seymour, too. Where it's like people are complaining we have too much Marvel now. If you throw more superheroes on top of that with DC, it's a little much. You know what I'm saying? Or if you let Universal have DC, let them have it. Let them do their thing with DC. Then you have real competition. And then, like you said, George, now Universal is very much incentivized to get rid of Marvel. We have a superhero brand now that we can do whatever we want with. Why are we going to keep Marvel? You know what I'm saying? And Disney wins with that too. So It's fascinating. I'm very interested. Go ahead, Seymour.
I was just gonna ask, with the Simpsons, have they updated it, or they just give it a paint job and that's it?
It's the same thing.
They barely give it a paint job. At least the one out here in Hollywood is falling apart. It's falling.
Yeah,
apart.
I will say the one out in Hollywood is less maintained than Orlando, but it's just. I love The Simpsons. Don't get me wrong; it's one of my favorite television shows. But in a theme park environment, it just doesn't work.
It's an IP that it's a prime time animated show that's very 2D, like flat. You know what I'm saying? It works for the media it was designed for, television, but it doesn't work in a 3D space. I love Family Guy. I have no desire to visit the Family Guy world, Quahog or whatever. Like for example, you don't have to love Avatar, but who doesn't want to go to Pandora? It's a beautiful environment. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The Simpsons and Family Guy and things like that, it's not really compelling,
Which is funny because before Disney bought Fox, there was like pictures, outlines of like how they were going to make a Fox amusement park, theme park with the Fox IPs of The Simpsons, Family Guy, Futurama, and it looked intriguing in Avatar as well. But this was before, and I find it funny that we're talking about it now that they're not good. It's like, good thing they didn't do that.
Yeah. Simpsons, it's a great IP. It just not for a park, not for a whole land, at least. They can maybe do something with it where, hey, look, meet and greets would be fine. I think like at Hollywood Studios, you want to do like a Simpsons meet and greet or something like that. That's cool, But a land, and to be fair, look, honestly, I think Universal did the best they could with that property. I think how their Springfield turned out is probably the best you're going to get. And I think the Disney version of that probably would have looked very similar.
And I think honestly, if they did a single like Simpsons dark ride, I think you can kind of get away with it a little bit. Kind of give that like Secret Life of Pets.
That's not a bad idea. Just one ride.
One ride, not a land.
Right. Yeah. In a broader land of something else. But like, if, for example, Animation Courtyard at Hollywood Studios, you want to put a Simpsons ride in there, that kind of works.
Yeah.
But a whole land of it, it's just a little much. It just doesn't really work.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind if there was an attraction for promotion-wise. I remember when the Simpsons movie came out, all across the U.S., all the 7-Elevens turned into Quickie Marts. And I thought that was pretty funny.
I remember that.
That's cool.
So, if Disney did something like that within their parks, if they made a second Simpsons movie, or they're promoting something really big for the Simpsons, I wouldn't mind that. But as an attraction like they did with Universal, not really. I don't think it's going to bring in people.
I agree with you, Seymour. I agree with you 100%. And another cool thing they could actually do is their Halloween celebrations. Oogie Boogie Bash. Do the Simpsons Treehouse of Terror.
Yeah, Treehouse of Horror. Yeah,
like
that kind of stuff is great to utilize the Simpsons. You know what I'm saying?
Which is coming on Disney Plus soon.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So they have a new one coming out soon on Disney Plus. And Family Guy is also doing a Halloween special as well.
Nice.
He's going all out with the Halloween with Agatha, Hulu. If you like horror, Hulu's doing crazy things with American Horror Stories. There's a horror movie called Mr. Crocker. I mean, if you like horror, I know you guys said in the live video not so much, but for people who do, I recommend watching the trailer and give it a take. If Mr. Crocker kind of gives me Chucky vibes.
Oh,
Yes, but but yeah, a lot of Halloween stuff is coming from Disney this year.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. You know, the DC talk and the Warner Brothers talk. I mean, it's possible Universal picks it up. It's possible that Zazie is gonna. I don't know. I had actually. It's kind of crazy. If you look back at some of my older videos, I had a lot of high hopes for David Zaslav. I was like, man, this guy seems to get it. He got in there and he's been an absolute disaster for Warner Brothers. And I think they're going to end up selling some stuff off. Maybe, sell the studio to like a Universal or something. I don't know, but I think we're going to see some moves being made here. And so George, your video topic might not be too far off. There might be something down the road where there is a situation where Universal's making a play for DC or something,
Well, you know what happens every time I make an announcement on something of what I think about stuff.
Yeah, we could thank George for killing the red card trolley. I can't even believe that, dude. You're like complaining about this thing, and 2 days later they're like, oh, it's gone. It's because you're a Bob Iger yes man, man.
I am. It's that special access.
You got it, bro. That's why.
It's like we were in Palm Springs, toasting to some Arnold Palmers, and it's like,
what can you do?
You do bring up a good point though regarding the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. He hasn't been doing the best with the company. No. Stock has been going down a lot, and it's fearful. The stock has gone down so much that the stock is valued less than the actual value of the company. That's how investors think of that company. If you actually buy, if you are a value investor and you actually buy Warner Brothers, you're buying it because you're actually buying it, cheaper than its actual value with debt and everything. But because people are fearful with this new CEO, yet we don't hear it about a lot on X or online as much. It's always about Bob Iger or Dana Walden. It's not about him, and I find it ironic because DC was a mess. Nobody wanted to talk about the Flash, Blue Beetle, Black Adam. Like those were flops. I hear the Marvels, right? And I hear, oh, that's a flop. Okay, well, what about the 5 movies that DC released that was flops compared to one, right? And like every movie after another just got worse and worse. It's like we all forgot about that.
And honestly, I have to say I'm probably going to get canceled over that, but I mean, not any more canceled than I already am. But it's not the best Marvel movie, but I took my son to go see the Marvels in theaters, and honestly, it was not that bad of a movie.
That's what I've heard, actually. I never watched it, to be honest with you, but I heard it isn't that bad.
No, it isn't. As I said, It's not the best, but I mean, it's not Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't like Multiverse of Madness?
Mm-mm.
Oh, really? I like that movie. I didn't like Ant-Man Quantumania.
I fell asleep on that one.
Yeah, I didn't like Quantumania, but I liked Multiverse, though. I did like Multiverse. Although I will say Multiverse the CGI was really iffy. Go ahead, Seymour.
I was going to say, I like the Multiverse, but I could tell that was a COVID movie, right? You could tell, tell like parts of it was filmed before and then after. It was very weird. And then how they had to delay the movie like a year or two, but then they released WandaVision, and then they couldn't get Doctor Strange to cameo when he was supposed to. And you can even see in WandaVision, it felt like a COVID show as well. It's like the quality wasn't as it could be. And I see that same thing, but a bigger extent with the Marvels, the quality wasn't there. And if you're going to spend $250 million, that quality has to be top level.
Yes.
Even, it could be okay. It's a great movie, but for the money that you're spending on it, not so much. It happens with Star Wars as well. You're spending so much, you need that, or else what's even the point?
Yeah, and Seymour, you brought up a great point in the DMs. You said for Agatha. Now we're only 2 episodes in and all that, but you said for Agatha, because you said a lot of the Disney Plus shows felt like movies that were like chopped up, but you said Agatha really does feel like a series. If you want to elaborate on that opinion.
Yeah, so Marvel, they took a step back and they stated, Kevin Feige, many times that they're going to focus. That's why they even rebranded Marvel to Marvel Television. Because they want to bring back to the basics. And I think this is the pivotal point for Marvel, where it's like, when we got Daredevil, Jessica Jones, like all those all those TV shows on Netflix, right? That were so good that Disney made with Netflix, right? They were licensed by Netflix, from Disney, but they produced it and they're bringing it back to the basics. And for me, it felt like somebody from FX, right, was in charge and it's like, okay, we're gonna make a Marvel TV show, and that's what it felt like. It didn't feel like the current Marvel making it, and it felt, I had to take a step back and like, okay, this is refreshing, and this gave me hope for Daredevil because they did the same thing. They were Daredevil. They were filming it and they scrapped the whole thing and redid it because they're bringing it back to the basics.
They're bringing it back. A lot of that Chapek era stuff was just not hit. This is not hitting. It just wasn't. It wasn't good.
Yeah. And apparently, there's like a lot of things with like writers' room, getting ideas, budgets, and focus more on like the writing and the actors instead of just focusing on CGI. And when I first watched the first 2 episodes, I looked at some of the reviews, but I didn't look at the details of what it actually was, just that if it was good or not. But when I watched it and then looked at the reviews in depth, it was basically the same thing that I was talking about. It's that it's not a like chopped up movie anymore. The quality of writing is there, and it's not focused on CG as much like She-Hulk. That was just terrible.
Oh, She-Hulk was that was a train wreck. That really was a train wreck.
Yeah, that was an example where they spent so much money on CGI, they forgot about the writing and they forgot about the quality of the actors in there. The actors were really good in the show, but you didn't showcase it because the writing was so bad. I mean, like you even made Daredevil look like a joke.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he looked terrible in that. Yeah. Oh gosh. That was probably that was kind of rock bottom, I think, for Marvel. That was kind of like pretty, if it wasn't rock bottom, it was pretty damn close,
That was basically Marvel's 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. But the Italian,
I will say though, the 2 positive words that I can give for Multiverse of Madness is Elizabeth Olsen.
Oh yeah, she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. Yeah, she is. Yep, absolutely. But George, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy. I just messed it up. With all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. And Mr. Seymour Duck, where can they find you on social media, sir?
Oh, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is. Make sure you follow us. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, we're not allowed to have Elizabeth Olsen because she's a sexy witch as well. Not allowed.
Not allowed. Not
allowed. You can't have it on Disney anymore. Too sexy.
Too sexy. Until the next show that doesn't have a sexy person, then we're complaining about that they're not sexy enough, right? So whatever Disney does, we want the opposite. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG 55.